we start?
Yep, let's do it. All right, call everybody back into session for the Finance Committee. Move on here to item number 2, or actually,
We did 2 already.
yep, we're back into number 5, it looks like.
3, aren't we?
No, we're 5.
What happened to 3 and 4?
Discuss, we adjourned full session. and did all that, so.
Yeah.
Discussion necessary action regarding replacement of firearms in the Cudahy Police Department. Chief?
Good evening. Thank you for having this on an agenda. Tonight, we're here to speak to you about replacing our firearms, that is our sidearms, on the police department. I am not a subject matter expert on this. We have Sergeant Harrington, who is an armor and a firearms instructor. He's very in tune with the condition of our firearms. In short, we're looking, and I'm going to bring him up to address this and answer any questions that you may have. In short, we're talking about using trade-in value of our current firearms. Sergeant Harrington has received quotes on that and determined the value, trade-in value of that, and we are going to use asset forfeiture funds to fund the rest. So it wouldn't come directly out of the budget. We would use asset forfeiture funds, which is an appropriate use of that money. I'll bring Sergeant Harrington up and then we'll answer any questions that you might have.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me here today. We currently carry a H&K USP 40 caliber sidearm. We carry the full-size model and the compact models, a little bit smaller if you guys prefer it. The weapons were manufactured in 2004, according to the serial numbers, with the exception of like 4 of them that we purchased when they increased staffing for school liaison and arming our court liaisons. And those may have been manufactured in 06. So roughly our weapons our sidearms are 12 years old. They're up there. Within the last 2 years, I've been noticing a lot of problems, and I don't know how much you guys know about firearms. The first major problem I was noticing was failure to lock back when out of ammunition, meaning that the pistol itself, when it runs out of ammunition in the magazine, the front slide or the top part of the weapon goes into a lockback, signifying that you're out of ammunition, that you need to reload your weapon. Within the last 2 to 3 years, I've been noticing on the range that we have not been having lockbacks. Guys are running out of ammunition, the weapon is not doing what it's supposed to do, and it's slide going forward. The next trigger pull is a click because the weapon's empty, and then they gotta reload that. The chief will attest to this. We've had some issues with H&K as far as customer service goes. As far as getting parts for the H&K pistols, I mean, they're very good guns, however, parts are very difficult to come by. There's one website in a nation of firearms websites where you can get pistol parts. There's one, that's it, where we can get pistol parts for the H&K pistols, and they're not always readily available. I contacted H&K once to try to figure out what I could do about some of the issues we're having. And the only thing they'll tell me to diagnose the problem is to clean the gun, and it's operator error. And I find that hard to believe when you got 38 guns and 35 of them, 30 of them are all experiencing the same issues. We've replaced firing pin springs, sear springs, recoil springs, magazine springs, magazine followers, and we're still having some issues. So it's just the wear and tear of 12-year-old pistols, I guess. When I did some research around the county, I know that the sheriff's department, they change out their guns every 5 to 6 years. MPD has recently changed out their guns. St. Francis, Oak Creek Police Department, South Milwaukee, all swapped out their weapons within the last 5 years. What we're looking to go to is the Sig Sauer P320, which is a striker fire pistol, a little bit modest, a little bit more modestly priced. Our HK pistols are actually very expensive; they're about $800 a piece. When I looked at the H&K pistol variant to replace the one we had, again, the price tag was pretty high. And believe it or not, when we test fired pistols, the majority of the officers didn't really care for it. We got a good response from the SIG rep. He came out to our PD, came to our tax shoots, and you guys really liked this 6-hour P320. So it's a newer firearm. It's their first striker fired pistol. And the research I did, there's probably about 200 or 300 agencies across the country right now that have already deployed it, so to speak, within the last year and a half of its existence, and one other department in Wisconsin. So
Tactical advantage to striker fire?
striker fires they're considered to be a little bit more, they call them safe fire pistols if you're familiar with Glock. Everybody knows what Glocks are. Glocks are striker fire pistols, so they don't have, you got one trigger pull, that double action, and that's part of the issue. Another issue we had too was when we hired Holly Zineker. I don't know if you guys have met Holly or know about Holly, but she's a tremendous police officer. She's a canine handler, and she's done a tremendous job the last 2 years she's been here. And one of the issues she had with the H&K pistols was she couldn't pull the trigger with her left hand. Offhand shooting, she couldn't do it. And that was another part of the problem. A very, very heavy trigger pull, and for smaller people or weaker people, it's just difficult. She had much trouble manipulating the 6-hour. So currently, right now, Holly doesn't carry an H&K pistol on duty. She carries a Smith & Wesson M&P. And we had to allow her to do that because we didn't want to lose her. We wanted to keep her around because good kid, good cop. So the sacrifices we made there. So the other issue we had discussed was possibly going to 9mm. In law enforcement, the bullet caliber thing just kind of goes up and down, up and down, up and down. When I first started 16 years ago, 9mm was on the way out. 40 caliber, 45 was on the way in. I carried a 45 briefly. 40 cal has been the trend recently. 9mm seems to be coming back in now since the FBI did some studies. Faster, more accurate round. However, one of the main selling points I think for the 9mm is always been cost. Cost goes down when you go to 9mm for ammunition. Allows you to stretch the budget a little bit more. It's not significant unless you look at it over the course of, what did you say it was, like 14 years? So about 10 grand.
About 10 grand.
About 10 grand over 14 years. So that's something we'll consider, but like the chief said, we're looking to take about 11,000 roughly out of asset forfeiture, which was nice. We got a tremendous deal on the buyback for the H&K pistols, nearly $350 each, which is pretty good considering the weapons. Most of them are 12 years old already. So we did pretty well in that regard. Yeah, and like I said, the SIG rep has been very good to us, and I don't know, I came in way lower than I expected as far as the final cost, and that includes the replacement of holsters for duty and for our TAC guys. So that's, I don't know, I think we did pretty good. And I'd like to strike now because my fear is that as time continues to go on, is that our weapons are going to continue to depreciate, and we might not get the same trade-in if we do this later. Yeah.
Good presentation, Officer Harrington.
Yeah, I was gonna say-
I'm gonna move to approve.
Yeah, I think we all want you to be.
All right, the guns are old,
Yeah.
we're getting better stuff.
Yeah.
We
Things
got-
are out of asset forfeiture, let's do it.
Yeah.
In the words of Alderman Bartasevich, move it.
Yeah, a couple other things. I mean, guys have been coming to me, they're hey Harry, I got this problem, I got that problem.
Please stop when they say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
appreciate
good,
it,
we're good,
guys.
officer. So we have a
It
motion on the
just had to
table
go
from Jason.
on.
After you
Thumbs down.
No?
We have a second from
I
Alderman
second.
Johnson.
Yeah,
All in
thanks so much.
Check out the
favor?
SIG P2022.
Yeah, like, they're good guns.
That's a.
They're good, they're reliable, I think we'll do well So, thank
All
you
right.
so much.
We got a lot to go here. So all in favor on the motion?
Aye.
Aye?
Yeah.
Okay. Opposed? All right, we're moving on here. That'll be a presentation of the 2017 executive budget. Kick it off, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Honorable members of the Finance Committee, tonight is my duty and honor to present to you the 2017 municipal budget. As you are aware, the city of Cudahy lives under strict levy limits imposed by the state of Wisconsin since 2004. With each passing year, the challenges only continue to get greater for municipal government. We control approximately 30 cents on the tax dollar, however, receive 100% of the grief when other taxing entities out of our control perform their actions and set their levies. For me personally, this is my 7th executive budget delivered to the Finance Committee, the Common Council, and the citizens of the city of Cudahy. A budget is not something which is created once a year then placed in a drawer. It is a financial roadmap for municipal spending which myself, the management team, who are responsible for the delivery of services to our residents, live with each day. The administrative finance team and mayor have since 2013 delivered to the Finance Committee each quarter a quarterly report on the city's finances for your review. We identify items of concern, favorable or unfavorable, then we get together to monitor them with all the tools that we have and ensure the financial stability of the city. That work comes from our duty and our obligation to pass a reasonable budget here and provide the services our citizens demand. Last year, the Finance Committee and the Common Council approved an overall 3.097% levy increase, which was approximately $256,137 in additional dollars, with $150,529 of the increase in debt service. With this evening's proposed budget, the proposed levy increase is $414,687, again with $145,865 in additional debt service payments. Those debt service obligations are for items that touch the residents of our community every day, as well as pay for capital and infrastructure costs. Based on the budget timetable approved by the Common Council, the original management team department requests were submitted to my office on Friday, September 23rd. Originally, those requests came in at a $574,867 or 7.42% increase, including the $145,000 for debt service to the levy. Working collectively last week with the finance director and the members of the management team, we reviewed revenues, adjusted expenses from the original proposals to bring you this budget this evening. There are a couple of big picture pieces I would like to explain to you before we get into the specific detail of the budget. Number one, through very fiscal conservative borrowing in 2014 and 2015, the debt service costs we are paying include the 2016 Kirkwood Avenue reconstruction, Packard Avenue reconstruction from Cudahy to Lunham Avenues, miscellaneous asphalt overlays performed in 2016, the city's portion in the defective sidewalks program, Barland Avenue reconstruction in 2015 from Grange to Ramsey, City Hall roof replacements for the entire building, a DPW salt dome, 5-yard patrol truck, and the dispatch radio conversion product. While this is not the entire list, there is no fluff or non-essential items contained within those requests. Number two, the city of Cudahy received our original estimate of 2017 shared revenue and expenditure restraint program payment notice on September 15th of 2017. Did you notice the word estimate? Very large word. While the state has provided us with an estimated additional $62,599 in state shared revenue without providing us the actual numbers on transportation funds and finalizing the estimate, the increase includes a $71,599 increase in state shared revenue, a $2,300 cut in fire insurance dues, and a $6,700 cut in exempt computer rate. The final numbers will not be provided to the city in a timely manner until after we have passed and finalized their budget and published it for our residents. If you remember last year, the state of Wisconsin also estimated an increase, but later reduced our payments by approximately $40,000. If that happens, the Common Council will have to make additional cuts on the evening of the community public hearing, November 15th, 2016. Number three, this budget provides service levels to our residents in status quo. There are no additional services being offered yet, no services being cut. Contained within each budget and in the budget of the Department of Public Works and capital equipment budgets for 2017, it provides $10,000 less in road funding, but $11,000 more in alley patching funds, and an additional $50,000 in tree trimming and removal, which is the #1 complaint received by the Office of the Mayor and within our Department of Public Works. Where the Department of Public Works made tremendous progress last year, this additional $50,000 dedicated to this effort should help take a dent out of the backlog and provide for less complaints from the residents we serve. Number 4, throughout the years, the finance director has allocated time in his salary, the mayor's salary, as well as the director of office services to the tax increment district fund. Hitting the general fund 101 this year in 2017 is an additional $33,714 in salary costs, which can no longer be allocated to the TID thanks to the closing of the tax increment district in 2016. It doesn't mean that the employees don't work on the TID, it just means that you can't allocate those funds and now they have to be covered by the 101. As we discussed earlier tonight, the increased cost of health care for current employees as well as retirees as the city pays for continues to be our #1 increase within the budget. While the 101 health care decreased in the budget this year due to someone coming off the retiree insurance, retiree health care still controls or consumes $699,015 or 8% of our tax levy. A 2% wage increase for all active employees as well as department heads and non-management, non-represented, and non-represented will represent an increase of $130,880 to the general fund. Of that, 73%, $96,851 would be in the protective services, police, fire, and emergency service dispatch. The remainder, $34,000, would go to non-management, non-represented, as well as non-represented employees. If you choose to eliminate that 2% increase for those groups, I would also recommend that the council also provide a 0% increase for the unionized groups of police and fire. And finally, the cost of health care insurance continues to rise. As we talked about earlier in being in the state health care plan, the budget before you tonight looks at a 7% cost increase in the cost of health care, which is $73,141 to the 101. Over the last 6 months, myself, the Director of Office Services, have been looking and exploring alternative methods, which we believe will save not only the city, but our citizens additional money. This has come through proactive work between myself and the management team that is here to present this budget for you tonight. I would like to start by going through the budget binder, which again proposes a 3.152 tax levy increase to the general fund. If you would choose not to fund the additional funding request for the library, that levy increase would drop to 2.702%. If we could, let's begin. As we talked about with the first page within your book, the levy there for the general fund expenses, which we have controlled extremely well, the library keeping the roads equipment funding the same, as well as the debt service increase at $145,000, that's where we get the total levy page. If you look at the next page, which is the 2017 budget summary, you can look at by department which departments and which funds have been increased as far as the revenues. What we do is we use a 5-year revenue average, and that's where again we put the numbers into the revenues, and the revenues are also then massaged by myself, the finance director, as well as the department heads, and that's part of the massaging that we did when we went back over the last week in putting together the budget. As you know, we have to provide a balanced budget, so revenues have to equal expenses. There is no fluff, there is no craziness within our revenues. Our revenues are very well projected based on actual revenues and potential increases. The 2017 budget summary shows the increases by department. General government starts with the common council and ends with inspection. Then you have the protective services and police, fire, and dispatch. The health department, animal control is the MAD Act, walkie dog and animal control that we are a member of. And then finally, the Department of Public Works, which is broken down into various different categories, everything from engineering, equipment, machinery, garbage and refuge. As you can see by the total numbers and what we're requesting with the spending increase in the 101, you can see it by the various departments where the protective services have the highest increased variance, then public works, then general government, and then health department and animal control. From here, I'd like to go into starting out with the sheet that is listed as revenue, general property tax fund, Department 4110. Again, in looking at the projected revenues, based on the proposed tax levy increase, we have the variance there for the increase. Working with the finance director, we also agreed that we could raise the water utility tax at $25,000 realistically, without burdening the taxpayers. That would get us to that revenue change. Bruce?
The water utility tax basically is the tax on the water utilities fixed assets. The $446,500 was actual, the number of, in 2015. The amount of fixed assets in 2016, I did an analysis, there is no change. So basically I feel comfortable with the $446,500.
Thank you, Bruce. So that's for the 4110 revenues. Under state shared revenue 4220, again, you can see right now we're looking at a $62,599 increase. We projected the transportation funds that we have not received final word on yet, again, as being stable. We don't know what the state's going to do to us, but again, those numbers come out long after our budgetary requirements and sending off the publication. So that's where we went with the status quo on numbers, because we don't know if those numbers are going to increase. The numbers, as I mentioned earlier, from state shared revenue, fire insurance dues, and the exempt computer age, which went up and down, those we have received a formal estimate. And again, I caution with the word estimate from the state of Wisconsin. So that's where we put those actual numbers in there. Licenses, Department 4310. Again, we're based on the actual revenues and increases. You can see some go up, some go down a little bit, but we're basically projecting that at about a $671 change based on actual numbers that we feel will be there for the 2017 budget. Department 4350, which is building permits and other permits, we're projecting a slight increase of about $4,500 based on what we're seeing in the 5-year revenue projections and kind of massaging the last 2 years, as we are seeing an uptick in construction, and also the licensing inspection numbers going into the 101 now. So that's why the increase in 4350. 4360 revenues, which are court related, we're projecting a $75,000 increase. The largest part of the increase is coming from additional fines and parking revenues. At one point in time, we were concerned that the parking fines were going down, but we see that the actual numbers have continued to go up, if you will. And we feel those numbers are very consistent and conservative numbers, but we feel that increase of $75,000 will be there. Bruce?
Just a point of interest, the revenues for court fines and things of that nature, court related, those are net numbers. We actually have to pay the county and the state on a monthly basis. So we actually bring in more, but we have to pay a certain percentage to the state and to the county.
In other words, what Bruce is saying, when we give somebody a $100 ticket, 30, 40, 50 bucks goes off to other taxing entities, we get the rest. But those are the numbers that are put in there.
With parking going up $20,000 an estimate, are we doing anything more in parking enforcement, or is that just with people just not following parking regulations?
The parking enforcement by the police department and the CSOs have been pretty consistent, Alderman. We had a time for a while that we were down a couple CSOs. You know, usually you have young people who are, going for the degrees in criminal justice, want to become a police officer, and that's the way for them to, start their career. So we were a little light for a while, but that was just a short-lived period of time. Again, we watch the numbers on a regular basis. It's basically non-compliance that are keeping those numbers up there. Okay. Department 4410, fees for services. Again, based on the actual numbers, we're predicting about a $1,900 increase in that revenue. And again, very close and accurate to what we have. Department 4430, Health Department Services. Our Health Department has done a great job of providing additional billable services here in our community over the last year. And while that number has increased dramatically, we still are coming in a little bit conservative with this number and increasing it by $5,000. We anticipate that the Health Department, the little engine that could, is going to continue that, but we don't want to be overestimating that revenue and then being short at some point in time next year. So this one, we're kind of erring on the side of caution, but again, they've done a great job, and we're anticipating another $5,000 increase there. Department 4450, Public Works. Again, based on actual numbers and realistic numbers, we see about an $8,600 change overall, with some things going up, some things going down. more dumpster permits, if you will, as people are renovating their properties, et cetera. More work in the right-of-way with construction projects, so, but basically, that one's about an $8,600 change the opposite direction. Interdepartmental charges between the water utility, that one stays very consistent as compared to last year. Department 4790, which is the other revenue, again, we're projecting about a $20,000 increase, and again, in some of the other revenues that we're taking in, we anticipate there's going to be a large increase in that, and again, that's why the reason for the increase, as well as the 4th of July donations being up a little bit, that should give us an additional amount of money as well. The other one in interest revenues, we've looked at the numbers basically coming up in about a $3,000 increase with the real estate interest as well as the interest income going down a little bit. We still see that turning in a positive direction. Now we get to the good part, the expenses. And again, working with everybody in the management team, we have reviewed actual expenses. We've looked at the areas of expenses. For example, within the Common Council budget, it'll be staying the same at the $52,130 budget. 5111, the Office of the Mayor, as I kind of explained, an additional 10% of my salary that used to be allocated to the TIP is now allocated to the general fund round one, so that's the increase. The other costs and transfers in there are a portion of Carolyn's time.
Can we just step back just to the Common Council portion? I was just confused that obviously the Common Council president makes a difference in wage. How come there's one alderman at 81.25, the rest are at 7,800?
Personnel, the head of personnel gets some additional money.
Okay.
I believe, right, Carolyn?
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that, so I was just curious. So.
You'll learn something new every day.
All right.
Again, back to 5111, the mayor's budget, not much there, the publication costs, dues, subscriptions, etc. I have forwarded off the resolution that the council passed in asking our state to change, that we could eliminate $10,000 in publication costs if we didn't have to print all these things in the back of the newspaper that nobody ever reads, but in case it doesn't happen, it's still put in next year's budget. 5112, civil service, again, a slight increase there, again, or actually a decrease on that one, thank you, Bruce. Police and Fire Commission, 5113, that one is based on the actual hospital service costs that they have for recruits. That's why we would increase that number from 4,000 to 6,000, thus the increase in Police and Fire Commission. 5114, other boards and commissions, again, basically a flat status quo on that one. Elections, no, excuse me. Yeah, municipal court, again, an increase of about $2,600 is basically a 2% wage increase in the court clerk and other associated costs of healthcare. Otherwise, most of the other expenses are pretty much status quo within 5121 municipal courts. 5141 elections, we increased the number slightly, basically that's for some other equipment and machinery and things that we're looking for. Dennis is looking to purchase. Obviously, we're going to have a presidential election this year, which has a higher expense. That's why we reduced the salaries a bit. But that's where we also look in those off years to replenish supplies and other things. Thus the slight increase in the elections budget. 5145, the Director of Office Services. Again, part of the Director of Office Services kind, as you can see, is funneled to different various accounts, the Office of the Mayor, elections, again, is another part of the duties. It's basically the 2% wage increases. Otherwise, expenses and everything else are pretty much status quo. Clerk Treasurer 5151. Again, it's for little Dennis and his big budget. Not much there, but based on it, we're looking at about a $400 decrease in his budget. Assessor 5152. A slight decrease of about $600 in just some minor tweaking of expenses. The contract with Accurate Appraisal, we will be in the 3rd year of the contract and things are working extremely well with them. And it's shown in the service that we provided as well as the cost. 5155 Information Services. Again, one of the things that we've worked on over the last year is getting a better handle on our costs and what we've been spending in equipment maintenance and software maintenance, as well as the equipment maintenance and software that we're gonna need to be replacing in next year. And thus, that's where the major portion of the increases are within the 51-55 budget, is in those two areas. The comptroller's budget 51-57, again, as we mentioned.
Can I
Oh,
just,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Alderman.
the dues and subscriptions, what's that?
Jane?
It's anything from contractual obligations for maintenance and service to any of the software we have, such as Civic Systems. One of them we have LogMeIn, which is a subscription service, so it's anything that we pay for maintenance and service on a contract. Our servers, the Skynet for the Cisco servers, the maintenance contracts that we have for the Barracuda service, the web filter, anything of that nature falls into that.
Okay, thank you.
In the past, some of those costs would be under contractual services, maintenance, equipment maintenance, or what have you. But Jay has taken this budget apart, and he's actually put the pegs where they should be, in the right hole, for lack of a better term.
It's not an IT term, but we'll let you slide with that one. Any other questions on the IT one? Okay. Comptroller 51-57, and again, the reason for the increase is that the 15% of the finance director's time now cutting here on the 101 as compared to the DIT budget. So that's why the large percentage increase. Otherwise, Mr. Williamson and his big department over there is just chugging along and doing fine, holding his expenses intact. 51-58 interdepartmental services, again, a $200 change for the 2017 as compared to the 2016 budget. 51-59 credit and collections, again, $4,000 to $4,000, keeping it pretty straight. Department 51-61, which is the city attorney, again, the only increase cost in there is the 2% wage increase and a slight increase in dues and subscriptions under his area. That makes up the percentage of the increase. 51-65, which is professional labor fees, labor negotiations, other legal costs, and auditing fees. Bruce has done a great job in really controlling our audit fee costs, so we've dropped that down from $45,000 to $40,000. The other legal fees we've bumped up from $34,000 to $44,000. That covers all of the legal fees and actions taken against the city. So sometimes in police matters and other matters, we have to use outside legal counsel. So we felt, based on a review of the legal costs, we could increase that one, and it comes out at net zero, this year's budget versus last year's budget. Now, as we start getting into the Department of Public Works budget, City Hall and Grounds, again, as you'll see, some of these budgets stay flat, some go up, some go down a little bit. With the City Hall and Grounds, again, we're basically looking at about an additional $300 this year versus last year. 5194, which is property liability insurance, again, through a lot of good work and efforts, we've kept our insurance costs and other costs within this under control. We're only looking at about a $3,000 increase. 5195, employee welfare. The good news in that, we have another retiree that's coming off the health insurance. So that number will drop by $25,604, but so that drops it in the 2017 budget about 3%. Contingency 5196, again, it is what it is. It's a straight number. It hasn't been changed for years, but we put it out there for that rainy day if we brought. Department 5210, which is the police department, one of the larger budgets. Again, they factored in a 2% wage increase, the cost of the health care. There's a slight increase in postage and contractual services based on realistic costs, but there's nothing hidden or anything like that. There isn't anything else in there. We had talked about potentially increasing the overtime last year. There just isn't money in the overall budget to be able to do it. The vehicle maintenance funds, etc. So it's basically coming through with about the 2%. 5222, which is the dispatch. Again, if you look at the numbers in that one's actually going down a little bit. And again, services pretty much status quo within the expenses within dispatch. 5235, the fire department. Again, one of our larger budgets in there. It's a 2% wage increase. We've looked at some actual maintenance and equipment costs. Keeping vehicles running, we'll increase that a little bit. In addition to, we've looked at the firefighters that are covered under the ambulance fund, which is Fund 701. I'm finally starting to get these right. There have been too many firefighters in the 701 fund, so what we did is we brought a half a body back into the 101 this year, and we'll be bringing another half a body back in next year, again, to get the expenses in the right places where they should be. So that's why, other than a normal 2% to cover minor tweaking, not a lot of increase there in the fire department. And I realize all of them, by switching your book around a little bit, I may have skipped over the way Bruce has it in here with the inspection department, 5240. Just a minute. We're back.
No, actually, I have them in a row there.
Yeah, I know, and I always do them the different way. Are you folks at 5240 with inspection?
The wrong way.
I was selling the bonds.
Yeah.
Tell me where you are, gentlemen, and then you can tell me where to go.
Go ahead.
5240?
Yeah.
Oh, great, thank you. With the inspection department budget, it's about a $10,000 increase. It's basically services status quo. What we've done is the community service officer, Greg Witkowski, who used to be covered under the 5210, the police department budget, we've now brought that back under the inspection budget where it should be. So it's basically a pencil shift, if you will. 10,000 less in the PD budget, shifted over into the inspection department because that's where it's where he performs the duties for. We okay to go on with 5400 engineering? We're in the right place? All right.
I go to 5510.
Come on, man.
Where are you at?
5510.
5510.
Just read it in order.
Go ahead. It's the way I got my budget.
Oh, yeah, see, there, I found it.
Okay. At least there's someone up there that's with me, I can laugh a little bit about this, right? The health department budget, again, as we've gone into the department 5510, one of the creative ways that Katie has looked at in lieu of a 2% wage increase. She has some steps in there for employers, but what she's gonna do is offer her employees merit days off as a one-year trial. And she has a younger staff that would rather prefer having the time off as compared to a 2% wage increase. It will not affect services to our community. So again, I asked my management team to be creative, and we think we've come up with an option. The additional cost increases that she is placed within there, a lot of it is increased cost, and one of our biggest one that continues to hit us is disposal of medical waste equipment, sharps and other things that we take in from our community and we don't charge our residents for. Our costs are going up through the roof. If you've seen the thing about these EpiPens and any medication that is pre-dispensed that you can basically inject yourself with, those now have to be sent to a special incinerator and handled specially at an exorbitant cost. Again, we're still providing those services, but the cost of doing that continues to go up. Any questions in the health department? What would you like me to go back to next?
Animal control.
Animal control.
5515.
5515, all right. The increase there, as the council knows, we have a member of walkie dog and animal control. Basically, the increase based on the NADAC budget is to cover debt service based on their new addition to the facility that is passed along through a formula that is sent back to the community. It is also based on the number of animals that you send into NADAC or that come out of your community over a 3-year basis. So it's basically been debt service increase and a slight increase in the number of dogs and cats that have been turned in by Cudahy residents into NADAC. That's what costs us more money. Next one. Oh, we're back to 5400 engineering. Now I'm back in line. Again, a slight increase, 2% wages in the increase in engineering. All of the costs staying pretty much the same regarding the actual expenses. 5411 machinery and equipment. Again, the Department of Public Works, basically about a $2,600 increase within that budget. 5412, which is city garage and grounds. Again, about a $1,000 increase. And looking at the actual costs and expenses here and how the wages are distributed out. Department 5413, which is public works supervision, about a $6,500 increase. And again, it's a matter of how salaries are distributed across the various accounts in the Department of Public Works. 5431, concrete streets. Again, where concrete streets and asphalt streets under 5431 and 5432 are gonna be decreased in budgetary numbers, if you will. The overall increase, when you look at alleys, it becomes about $1,000 increase between the concrete streets, asphalt streets in 5432, and then the alleys that are on 5436. 5435, which is snow and ice control, is a large expense under the Department of Public Works, but it's something that is out of our control. A lot of that's within Mother Nature, if you will. We are projecting a slight decrease of $18,000, and we're hoping for another third in a row mild winter. 5436, again, under alleys, an increase to the budgeted amount, again, for supplies to be used to help start patching alleys. 5437, the name guides, again, basically status quo, 41,000 for, to get 41,000 to for next year. 5441 under traffic signals, a decrease about $9,000 there, because it was wanting to be used for other things. There'll be less work on traffic signals and signs over the next year. 5442, street lighting. Again, our largest expense within this is the largest single line item in Public Works is electricity, $360,000 budgeted each year. Again, it is one of the items that we do within our means and our ordinance. We monitor it regularly, but again, the overall on that budget, we're looking at a slight decrease for next year. 5443, parkways and trees. Again, you can see that where the actual budget number in the 101 has decreased. We've cut $50,000 in roads and capital equipment account to encompass more tree trimming and tree removal within the parkways in the overall budget. 5446 under Public Works, weeds, based on actual services provided and labor with that. We see that being about a $7,000 decrease rather. That means the good news is our residents are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and we're spending less time on that. 5471 garbage collection and refuse collection, again, a slight increase there based on when we have problems going into alleys, or our contractors have problems going into alleys, our crews are required to go in there and pick up the garbage and recycle for our residents. That's why the Director of Public Works is increasing that fund slightly, because we're performing those services now. 5473 garbage with refuse disposal, again, an increase in that one program costs as well. That's based on the contracted services, our contract with advanced disposal, and we're anticipating about a $20,000 increase based on our contract, as well as the actual disposal costs that we're being charged. Health Department we went through, Animal Control we went through. The only other final one in the back is we have the Department 405 Economic Development budget to go through. If the council remembers, through the closing of the tax increment district, you've put $120,000 a year away for the Fund 405, based on the expenses that Brian's proposing. He's looking to use 105 of that $120,000, so he's coming in well below allotted. And again, just some shiftings in some of the expenses, but overall on the economic development budget, basically coming in with a slight increase over last year. The other two budgets we have are the Fund 411, which is the equipment fund. We're proposing $90,000 for equipment and $310,000 for road improvements. Within that, as far as the capital things that we need to replace, we have some engineering items that need to be replaced, some materials for Public Works, as well as replacement of one squad car for next year, reflecting within the budget. The dollars are basically the same as what we've asked for from last year. The other budget that is a part of your overall budget is the Library Fund 801. The Cudahy Family Library is probably one of the most utilized public facilities here in the community. It is run very properly, very effectively, provides a number of services to the citizens of our community and all that come in. One of the biggest problems that Rebecca's had throughout the years is the reduction in funding from the Milwaukee County Federated Library System, where that has reduced the revenues coming in. She's looking at a slight wage increase of 2% for employees, looking to fill positions which are part-time positions which have been vacant for a long period of time. So that's why, again, as the library as a part of this is also requesting an increase versus the tax levy funding portion that was from last year. A lot of information that we've gone through. Are there any questions that the Finance Committee members have?
Did we increased the library last year, didn't we?
Correct.
No,
No?
last year was a 1.5% decrease from tax levy and other monies from the reciprocal borrowing decreased.
Okay, so it was 2 years ago when we had the increase.
The 2016 budget was a 1.5 decrease of $9,862 in the tax levy.
As the members of the Finance Committee are aware, is that earlier tonight, we talked about an alternative in changing the health care provided by the city of Cudahy for our employees. The numbers that you were presented this evening with the overall levy increase, if the Finance Committee chooses to go with this plan to reduce the cost of health care and save our taxpayers money, we can drop the overall levy request that myself and the management team are coming in here with tonight. What does that mean? It means the general fund expenses would drop to a 1.714% increase. That would be if you included the library in their request for the additional money of $38,420. If you chose not to give that increase to the library, then you'd be looking at a general fund increase of 1.24%. So based on those numbers, if we go with this alternative plan, the overall property tax levy increase, including debt service, which is about 1.7%, would be a 3.426% increase to the taxpayers of this community. Every year I ask my finance director to come up with a magic number that says, what does that mean? So Bruce, what does that mean to the average $150,000 homeowner?
An increase of taxes of $42. Now just remember, that's just the city's portion. It's not MMSD, it's not the county, so on and so forth. So it's $42. The one at the 4.8 that we gave you this before on a $150,000 would be $60. So basically a drop of about $18.
Per year. Per year. For the year.
Per year.
Question just for Mary Jo, if we were to say round this up to 3.5, I noticed that the pothole budget, which we hear about all the time, is about $10,000. If we were to increase that with additional funding, would that help, or are the roads just in such bad condition that even patching potholes and throwing more money at it wouldn't do any good?
Well, I'm not gonna turn any money down. The problem comes in is that you can increase the budget, but over the years, we haven't filled positions. So I either work them overtime or the work doesn't get done because I don't have bodies to do it. So, I mean, the budget would have to be increased enough so that I could actually add, that's what I need, I need another employee. But a lot of the roads are beyond
Patching them, yeah.
Yes, and the alleys are useless to patch, so it's a waste of money, but people complain.
And I understand that, and I just want to get, verification for that, or what would even be in your best estimate if we wanted to really put some additional resources into that. How much are you looking at? 50,000 or 100,000?
Are you talking asphalt paving?
Or just patching or sealing, or just, some minor additional improvements that we could show that we're at least trying to do and continuing to do infrastructure.
For expenditure restraint, I would recommend if you're gonna put in the additional 50,000, I would put in the account 411 instead of 101.
The roads and equipment fund.
Roads and equipment. Just a suggestion, you don't have to do it, but
Okay.
just to play safe, I'm sure it'll be fine.
I mean, we're already at a high, 3.4 is a high levy limit, but every year we talk about doing more for roads.
Based on our debt over 2005, we could actually go up to 8.7%. So we are in a good percentage.
One thing we could do, Mr. Chair, is we're approaching about the 7 o'clock hour, which we should recess and go to the common council meeting. Are there any other suggestions that the committee has that the finance director could go back during the recess and come back with more numbers for the committee?
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
You had mentioned, removing the library. Just want to see what the number is.
Okay, that's fine.
I would like to see some additional money, put towards the roads, you know,
How much?
100 grand.
Do 1,500.
Yeah, 1,500.
Is that okay, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, that,
What's 1,500?
On roads. Give them a number with adding an additional 50,000 for roads, and then a second number for an additional 100,000 for roads.
And what is the thing with the library, did you say? I'm sorry.
And he's saying take out the decrease or the increase.
The mayor had mentioned, you know, what it would be if we took out the library additional.
So keep it as the same as last year's rate?
Yeah.
Well, we just wanna see what it is.
He just wants to see what the number is.
That's fine.
Are there any other suggestions or things that the members would like to see? Okay, then if we could, Mr. Chair, if we could take a recess, go into the council meeting, and come back in.
do we have a motion to?
Motion, go into recess.
Second. Motion's been seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
What was being first sergeant over there? Go ahead.
All right, I call back into session the Finance Committee at 7:20 PM. So where we left off here, we were talking about additional funds being put towards the road, and
I just got done doing chest compressions on Alderman Holland back
Yeah.
there in the break. And she's her passed out.
Is he okay?
It's gonna make it.
Okay, thank you.
and given the, you know,
It doesn't take much to jack it up.
yeah, even this a small amount tracks up to 5% and, you know, 5.5%, which obviously I think the sticker shock alone says that we pretty much can't afford to do this.
Which is $61.50 on a $150,000 home, and the other one is $70.50, the 5.586, raising $100,000 for roads.
Where no manager in their right mind would ever, again, turn away money that would be provided by a common council, which would be greatly appreciated. Obviously, Alderman, when you look at the numbers and what it does, those are some pretty high numbers. You know, again, ultimately, you are the governing body that makes the final decision, but that's the impact of, you know, what you're looking at by putting another 50 or another $100,000 towards the roads. We have done a very good job in, you know, accumulating money within the road fund that allowed us to do a larger project this year, if you will, in the 2016 Mill overlay. I know that Director Lang is looking at doing some concrete patching within the road fund, you know, as we have proposed here within the budget. Maybe something that we return to next year in looking at a way of trying to put additional funds away forward, or looking at other sources of funds down the road. If we come up with a project that would get us in the right place at the right time. I mean, if the council remembers when we did the bids for the Kirkwood Avenue project, by coupling the extension of Barnard Avenue through there, we were able to save both of those projects around $200,000. What does that mean? At least if it's another 6 more blocks, it's 6 more than what, you know, we were able to get done. Yeah, Alderman Holland.
Bruce, so you added extra to the general fund and then you split it between the general fund and the roads?
Pardon?
No, I
No,
didn't.
you didn't add it.
Are you sure?
Yeah, the number.
Did one with a 50,000 increase and one with 100,000?
No, 230,402.
Oh, you know what? I used the levy sheet
107.
I think
for the 4.864,
that's what he did.
not the
That's what he did.
3.426.
Okay, that's it.
That's what I'm comparing.
Okay,
That
so
was
I
the
mean,
latest
All right,
number.
Alderman, hum on it for a couple more
I'm
minutes.
sure the mayor will keep you entertained for 5 minutes.
okay, yeah, because that, you know,
That's what.
it's actually a good catch, because that's $100,000. That could save us, that could put you right around.
Well, that's still gonna cause me a shock, but.
If we could go back to 2 years ago's budget, sheet F versus
Elevate your
sheet
feet.
Q.
Alderman Holland back will start pumping on it.
Yeah, and at the same time too, you know, we can always bring the levy down in the final vote. I think it's worth at least having something out there and having something proposed and letting the public weigh in on it and say, hey, yes, we want this, no, we don't.
Right, and again, this is where, you know, as I tell my management team throughout the years, in all seriousness, they bring in their individual requests, and it's my job and the finance director's job to put it in the whole, and put all the pieces together. And that's always the hard part of this. You're right, Alderman, in saying, what's that magic number? And when the first request came into my office at the 5.86%, if you think he had sticker shock, how do you think I felt? And then we literally had to go through there and say, I know that we had talked about, last year, trying to increase the police department overtime, trying to increase the fire department overtime based on actual spends. But in reality, the numbers just didn't fall in together to come in with a decent budget to be able to present to you guys tonight. So those were hard decisions that I had to make, that as I proposed the executive budget, in taking those out. Obviously, the police department would like to see 2 squad cars replaced next year, but there just isn't enough money, as you see by putting in $50,000 for roads. Forget the line item for a second, whether it's $50,000 for roads or $50,000 for a vehicle. You see what that does to the levy, and how do you get yourself to a number overall, that you're comfortable with that? And you're right, Alderman Morales, your point is that when you go to publication, yeah, you can go down through motion on the end of the public hearing, but you can't go up. That's, again, when I said that big word, in the state of Wisconsin. If you remember, when the previous council passed their final budget at the night of the public hearing.
We got that change at the last second.
We had to make adjustments, didn't we, in that final budget? Unfortunately, we were able to find stuff to work it through. But that's the other caution we have to worry about too, is that if the state does come through with those road numbers and they whack us, or those state share revenue estimates, if they whack us on the transportation or the other state share revenue like they did on computer, non-exempt for the fire dues, rather than having a $60,000 increase, we may come into the night of the public hearing with another $20,000 hole. Anything that they cut us based on these estimates, we're in looking for adjustments.
I would venture to make an educated guess, though, that the percent of communities that go down after they've gone high is small.
We've done it. I think we've done it just about every year here, where we started out higher and then we've brought the levy down further.
I think we lower, we find some money that it gets lowered on vote night.
Yeah,
Right.
but going and actually making adjustments, that's, what you're talking about is as I predicted last year, the $60,000 that would just appear. I'm not predicting that this year, but that was a little bit different.
That was a quarter.
Yeah, can we go back to the 2% too, just on the record for the non-union, non-management? We are still going with a more merit-based approach to the 2%, correct?
Correct. Each individual department
gets the money and then they can allocate it.
Public Works has always done it where they've done it as a pot pool. Not everybody gets 2%. Some get more, some get less. When you talk about the 2% salary increase to the general fund, because you got to remember that some of the employees within Public Works also do it for the water utility, the sewer utilities, so those numbers are funneled back there. But a 2% overall to all of the city employees is $130,880. Fire department is $36,600 of that. Police department is $43,326 of that. Another $16,889 is represented in dispatch. So then when you ask the question, what's left for the rest, all the non-management, non-representatives, when you look at general government, which would be, the clerks, the inspection department, public works, etc., those numbers respectively for general government are $10,970 and $17,691 for public works. So basically, the smaller fish in the bottom are around $27,000 of that $130,000 over.
So the 2% is 130,000
Total.
Was it 2% last year?
Yeah.
Is it pretty much go 2% a year, or?
And
I do, so
right, and good question. So the only dumb question is the one you don't ask. And anytime you want to ask a question, we're more than happy to answer it for you. Is that, yeah, there was a year in the past, I believe it was 2011, where they did zeros. But basically it's been around a 2% per year.
Big difference.
So, Vic didn't have a heart attack.
He's breathing heavy over here.
He's okay.
So if I read these numbers right, Ruth, by decreasing the library percentage increase, so taking that 38,000 out, but adding 50,000 in for roads and equipment, it takes it from a proposed overall of 3.426, including debt service, to a 3.561.
Yep.
And
Or
if you-
$43.50 for a $150,000 home.
And if you did the 100,000, again, without the library increase, that would be at around 4.14%.
And just off the top of your head,
$51.
if we added the library and kept it at the 50, that should put us right around 4% flat.
It would put, I think the answer to that question without doing the calculator, yeah, I think you would be very close, Alderman, because again, if you look at the 100,000 number,
Mhm.
and if the library's requesting
38,
34, and let's
yeah.
bump it up to 40 for sake of round argument,
Mhm.
that as you see with that 4.14 number at 100,000 on roads, if you said 90, yeah, it should drop it down to a little over, just a hair over 4%.
Should I ran it in?
What can we get for $50,000, Mary? I mean, is it? I mean, that's I guess the ultimate question. Is it? Is it worth a couple extra bucks to the homeowners? Would they see any impact or advantage to that? Because obviously, like you said, you need extra personnel to do it.
I know what you're, what you're looking for in your neighborhood is the road resurfacing like we did on the middle section of the city this last
Yeah.
year. What we try to do is we try to alternate using the 411 because it's a maintenance project. We don't want to borrow that kind of money. So we alternate from on our concrete streets, we'll do a big concrete patch program 1 year, and the next year we'll do an asphalt resurfacing. So like this last year, we did that for this year. We did the asphalt resurfacing. So next year it's concrete patching. You don't have very much concrete out in your neck of the woods. So, that would be District 4, District 5, and District 3 that would get the benefit of the concrete this last. And that would help, the 50,000 would certainly help, because we would just add it on to in the 411 to the concrete patch program.
So, what can we do? Because in particular, obviously, Allerton is a mess. I get people complaining about that all the time. What is it going to take to get Allerton worked on here in the near future?
Right, well, it's, if you go out there and catch Allerton, that's wasted money.
Yeah.
Like much of our, so it either needs resurfacing, which is a waste of money, but we could put a lift on it, but it'd be $60,000 to resurface, that. Now, we just can't go out for a road resurfacing project at $60,000, because we're not gonna get any bids.
Mhm.
Typically, you have to look at least 250,000 before you would track the asphalt paving companies to even take out a bid.
3,400 block of Allerton, Justin, you know what's underneath there? Tar.
Yeah, it's
Tar. When I was a kid growing up, we used to watch the city guys go in there, and they would scrape off the top, and they would put hot tar in there, and then they would put stone in there. That's how they resurfaced roads many, many years ago, and of course, then as kids, we ride our bikes in there, of course, you skid it, so you could move the stones around. That's what's underneath that, and that's where, again, Greg Rowe, and I'm not an engineer, I'm just a mayor, but that's where, when we go out and take a look and say what's underneath there, to be able to save a street, there's nothing under there that's worth saving, because of, that particular block, 3,800 blocks ago, and that's how stuff was done years ago. Just like Kirkwood Avenue reconstruction project, they had to go down 3 feet, because what did they do in 1961? They put a road over a landfill.
Yeah, but if we say we're to do 50,000 this year, can we bank that money for next year? And then if we can afford to do another 50,000 and start putting it towards an allocated set, so that way we don't have to all of a sudden
So what
drop
you're saying though is you want that 50,000 to go to that specific road in your district.
Yeah, but
Yeah, wait a minute.
yes, but at the same time, if it takes 50,000, you know, if it takes 250,000 and we have to do multiple road surfacing, you know, doesn't it make more sense to start putting some additional money this year, some additional money next year, and start building up a bank as opposed to, you know, all of a sudden having a $150,000 hit to the, you know, at some point in time?
Look at Alderman, if you're gonna give me more money than I'm asking for in a budget, I will
Yeah,
find
but-
ways to put it to good productive use when it comes to roads. Because, you know, just like I mentioned that we built more in this budget for tree trimming, which is our number one complaint, obviously roads, get away from your district for a second, and from any one of you.
Dish
What's-
Avenue.
What's the number 2 complaint, folks?
Dish Avenue.
What's the number
Dish
1
Avenue
complaint?
is the number 2 complaint.
Okay, we could go at it all night, because every one of you, just like he said, Dish, just like Mike, you said another street, I'm seeing Michelle's eyes chirping over there, so she's got one.
O'Brien.
Yeah, O'Brien, right,
Grange.
I mean, we all have it,
Build
you know.
that tunnel.
Yeah, we've all got them within areas, so anything additional that we could get, we're gonna put it to good use somewhere. Okay, we're gonna put it to good use somewhere.
Let me just bring something up. because
You got a
when
street you wanna fix? Throw it on.
Yeah,
Put it on the
my
list.
street, no. No, what,
got the
I was
best one
thinking
in the
when you
city,
came,
man.
I know, I just got it.
You're number 2 after Packard.
But you know what, I was thinking, just a sidebar discussion for another day, it was like have a pothole of the week award or something in this town, because I'm sure you guys get calls. I get calls from people that are desperate, some of them really don't need pots that bad. But I think if we had a little pile of money, we could just say, hey, there's this pothole out on Burton or wherever, you know, and just go patch it. Or is that just
Well,
completely
we
crazy? I
have,
mean,
we have 58.5 lane miles to pick from.
yeah.
So somewhere between our 5 aldermanic districts and the 58.5 lane miles, trust me, if you give us an additional $50,000, we're gonna find some place to patch
Mike,
it.
But
I have the winner all the time. It's at the end of my driveway. I don't
Oh, yeah.
even call it in. I have an old
Say, call
lady
me.
around the corner on Rosewood who calls it in for me because I don't wanna call the damn thing in to get preferential treatment. She calls it in every year. It's bigger than the hood of your car.
They're always
That's the
bigger
winner.
than that.
Right.
They're always, the front end's one. But no, I mean, like for 50 grand, I mean, could we fix
Can we do some work? Yes.
250 potholes? I mean,
Yeah, we can.
Time out, hold on, Mary's like waving over here.
Let me tell you,
But then she's a scheduler. Nobody's listening to me.
Yeah.
$50,000. You can get me the material, you can get me the equipment. I
But-
need people, put that out there.
not to
Yeah.
mention, hold on here, Mary Jo, I'm gonna take it one step further. Being on the Board of Public Works and we get a road, basically, they do a road study every year.
yeah.
A lot of the $50,000 will go on roads to fill in the pothole of the week that are on roads that need to be completely reconstructed, and unfortunately, the homeowner is gonna pay for that road. The road needs to be rebuilt, it doesn't need to be refilled, same thing with the alleys.
Yeah.
The alleys need to be, a lot of them, for the most part, they're done, they've perennially pooped the bed, they're done, they're through, they're 50 to 60 years old. They need to be rebuilt and 100% assessed back to the homeowner. Now, she's out there running around cold patching, hot patching these streets that are, they're not even worth it. We do it basically because there's complaints, and then we get a.
I understand.
And
It's a
then,
feel
and then
good.
she gets hung
Yeah.
because her guys aren't sitting out there blowing all the debris out and spending 5 hours patching one pothole.
You're getting the
And they're
same
just
problem.
throwing it in and getting stamped out, but it's gonna pop out in a week.
And what I'm saying too is that $50,000 might not get us very far, but if we could take that money and just start banking it, so then within a couple of years we don't have to borrow it and we already have it in there and it's not.
Yeah,
a hu-
if you don't spend it, it goes to fund balance, and then it begins, the money's there for the following year.
Yeah, it accumulates.
But not just to be used for anything. I would like to at least start building more of a reserve, exactly, for.
Dedicated account.
But
I mean,
who
it is
decides
under-
what
it
it
is
gets
under the
used
road
for?
account.
Yeah, there'll be a reserve on.
It's still.
Mary Jo's raising her hand.
So there's no guarantee that it's gonna go for that road.
I understand that. I advocate for my road, but I understand that the whole city needs it.
I'm not turning the money down, believe me, I need the money, there's ways of
And I understand that, I'm just looking for more of a long-term approach and just start putting some of this money that can be used every couple of years instead of borrowing for it.
It's understandable.
So, just looking away for, 3 years down the road, because otherwise we have to have these big levy hits. If we just start putting, a portion away, like all of us save money for, certain needs, yeah, just whatever it may be. I mean, we already have a high levy at 3.5% anyways. To me, there's not a whole lot of difference between a 3.5 and a 4, even a 4.5%, especially if I can tell my constituents that money, or at least a portion of it, is going to some long-term foresight of getting these roads fixed.
If you look at the three set of numbers that are before you, if you put the additional 50,000 in for roads, decrease the request from the library, that we get a 3.56%. I will continue to fight for the library.
I was going to say, I don't want to get rid of the library either. So.
Okay, so if we look at the next option would be take the library's increase, leave it in there, puts 50,000 in for roads, you're just at a hair over 4%, 4.01. Obviously, I don't think the council has a stomach for the 100,000, with the library taken out of the 4.14, so I'm just gonna flip that option over. Some food for thought, based on the Public Policy Forum's study from 2015 property taxes here of the 19 municipalities in Milwaukee County. The overall municipal tax rate in Cudahy is the 13th lowest out of 19 municipalities based on the 2015 tax numbers. That's including all rates, which would be city, school district, county, MMSD, MEDC, and any other special charges based on their study. West Milwaukee is number 1, Oak Creek is number 19 when you look at overall municipal rate. When you look at the city tax rate, which is the 30 cents on the dollar that you 5 and myself and our management team take care of, we're 9th out of 19. All right, we don't have like Oak Creek, who is 15th lowest. We don't have unlimited development and a $6.5 million subsidy from a power plant. That just is what it is. The lowest in Milwaukee County, 19th municipally, Village of White Fish Bay. Number 1, obviously, West Milwaukee is number 1 in the city or village tax rate, if you will, as well as overall. I think we're doing a pretty damn good job when we look at where we're at overall, with 13th out of 19 based on everybody, and 9th based out of 19. We're right in the middle, which is, I think, where we'd like to be. You never want to be the highest, you never want to be the lowest. But as one of our old faithfuls who comes in here, Jerry Wingleski, what's one of the things that he always complains about? After trees. Fix the roads. I think the citizens would be willing to spend a little bit more money on roads if you're doing something. The previous council very graciously added an additional $100,000 in road funds, and we've been able to sustain that and keep that in every year. If you look at this proposed 4.01% increase, if we get ourselves into a jam, if you will, on the night of our public hearing, we'd always back that proposed $50,000 out if we needed to. Maybe that becomes our race in a hole if we need it at the night of the public hearing.
If we lose transportation.
If we lose transportation funds. I think we could justify that to our taxpayers that said, as a governing body, we've tried to listen to your concerns, we've tried to add more money for tree trimming, we've tried to add more money for roads, but these were the consequences why we had to pull it back this year, and we will look at it again for next year.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Mayor.
And just a quick, so this 4, let's call it 4%.
Yes.
That's not of the overall bill, that's just the portion.
That's the city's portion.
Yeah.
So if they're gonna say, well, I'll get a $3,500 tax bill, you're raising it 4%, that's not the case, right?
No, because again, we only control 30 cents of the tax dollar, the other 70 cents of the tax dollar. For example, Mike, and I can round off the numbers a bit.
Well, no,
the school district is around 38 cents of it, Milwaukee County's 20 cents, MMSD, MATC come in around at 12 cents. We control 30 cents of their tax dollars, so it's again, when you extract.
But I'm just looking at, it's like, let's just say you have
The city's
just
portion.
looking at a round figure, let's say you have a $1,000 tax bill, it's gonna go up.
Bruce's number, $150,000 house, with 4% levy, Bruce, what are we looking at?
That gallon?
I mean, it's a percentage of the actual. You know,
$48.50.
I was gonna say, it'd be like
so the
49.
percentage of their actual tax bill is gonna go up.
Mike,
Because that's what I'm
here's,
hearing.
here's the answer.
Sure,
You ready for it?
I'm ready.
No matter what our percentage is,
Yeah.
we're getting blamed for all of it.
Well, I know. But
Because
I
they
like
pay
to have
the-
an answer
They pay
ready.
the taxes here, so you're gonna get in trouble for all of it. The county, MMSD, the school district, the city, MATC, you're getting all of it. They don't say, I pay $1,300 in city tax money, they say, I pay $8,000 a year on my goddamn house, and you're screwing me,
Yeah.
Mike.
Right, and that's why we put up, as I call it, the McHugh bill, because at least Mayor
With the
McHugh had
divider.
the guts.
You're gonna get all
To
the
put the
blame.
dollar bill up and have it in the hallway like we did last year, that again, the clerks who are collecting the money, as I said, take 100% of the grief. And if we had a tax system here where one, like in most other counties, rather than coming to the local village hall, you go down to the county courthouse to pay it, our folks here wouldn't have to take it. The other part is that, how many charge cards you got, Mike? You got a Visa card? You got a Math? Oh, man.
Yeah.
Anybody else got a one card?
He's a baller, he's got a American
Okay,
Express.
but you get my point, when you gotta write your bill out
Yeah.
to Visa, you write out that bill, you write your other one out to Discover, et cetera.
Yeah.
That's when people realize how much each thing is actually costing them, and again, how do I justify that? Mike, I'll take 30 cents,
Well,
30%
I'm not
of your
fighting you.
complaint.
I'm just
Right.
asking because when the question comes to me,
Sure,
so I understand it completely.
right,
But
sure.
we can have this discussion.
Okay, very good.
I mean, it's not.
Short answer, Mike, you're getting blamed for all of it.
Yeah,
It's my fault.
So,
They don't care
just,
about the 3 cents trick.
back to point of order here. So does anybody else have any further debate on the 4%, or do we have any differences, or do we have a motion, or what is, the council's
I will
opinion?
stick my neck out. Go ahead.
It might even help, it might even make it easier for you to stick your neck out, Mike. Rebecca, can you tell them what your increase is about? I think they saw the big number. Most of it's on.
Most of it's health insurance and wages, a 2% increase for the staff. The health insurance, I do have a $20,000.
And there's a chunk in for unemployment. Can you tell them what that's for?
Because last year I had to lay off our full-time custodian, so I have this year, we have 2017 to pay his unemployment compensation. I have started to partner with DPW, and I'm most grateful for that. They're doing our lawn and our sidewalks in the winter and our lawn in the summer, and we've saved money on that compared to outsourcing it. And then I did increase the part-time children's librarian a few hours extra a week because we are having a lot of problems with disruptive students, so I want the librarian to become familiar with the children and help them with other things. And last year I laid off 1.5 people, and I didn't replace 3 part-time retirees, so I want to get one of the part-time shelvers back, which makes $7.25. When we moved to the library, I had a staff of 25, I'm down to 17 right now. And we're open 7 days a week, and we are one of the most vibrant libraries in Milwaukee County, I think. And 8 of my employees out of the 17 make $10 or less, so we're not that library.
But basically, if the huge chunk is taken out, a lot of that is at 19, you're gonna have to get it from somewhere else.
I'll probably have to lay off, I won't be able to add the 12-hour-a-week shelter, and I won't be able to give my employees a 2% increase.
Yeah, to pay the unemployment claim, so. All right, that was just clarification on
I had no
what
problem
she
with
needed
it.
done.
Yeah.
I'm with it. I love the lot. Nice place.
So, back to,
You have a motion?
All right, so I will go ahead and put the motion forward that we go with the $50,000 saving plan at about 4% or whatever that comes out to. And we'll see how it goes.
That's what leaving the money
You're
in.
leaving
Is that,
the motion with leaving the money for the library
the
and
money,
plus
yeah,
50,000
absolutely.
additional for roads.
right, and that comes out to I didn't get that.
4.012%.
Yeah.
That would be a proposed 2016 tax levy of $8,868,597.
Okay, so
49.50 on a.
Right.
I will make that motion and it will officially be my fault.
All right. All right, we have
I'm
a,
gonna tell them
$5
it's
a
all.
month.
Yeah.
2 gumballs a week.
No.
Do we have a second on that motion then?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Alderman Lickowitz. On a roll call, Alderman Johnson?
Is there any discussion?
Or any further discussion, I suppose?
Might wanna open it up for debate.
Yeah,
I think we have.
I thought we got it. On a roll call then, Alderman Johnson?
Yeah.
Alderman Hollenbeck?
No.
Alderman Lickowitz?
Yes.
Alderwoman St. Marie Belko?
Yes.
And I myself vote yes.
Motion carries forward.
Thank you. The other thing, Mr. Chair, I need you to do then is to approve the Department of Economic Development budget 405 separately, as we've done in the past, and again, based on the budget that's been presented before you. He is coming in below his $120,000 number, which has been allocated within the TID project escrow fund. So I would ask for a motion to approve the Department of Economic Development budget separately, please.
Do we have a motion on that?
So moved, I'll do that.
Second.
Okay. On a roll call, Alderman Johnson?
Yes.
Alderman Hollenbeck?
Yes.
Alderman Lickowitz?
Yes.
Alderwoman St. Marie Belko?
Yeah.
I vote yes as well.
Motion carries 5-0.
With that, we can adjourn then, correct?
Correct. Then we need to have a special counsel.
Yep. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're good.
7:52. Yeah, let me get this.